Okay, meatballs. So today, gonna mess around with the sound settings a little bit more. The AC is going to be kicking on relentlessly, so I'm trying to cut some of the background noise out. If it sounds a little weird, it's just the AC was relentless today so far, and I don't think it's going to stop. So we're trying something new. So today we're going to get off topic a little bit. My hippie fiance loves her ghost hunting shows and cryptid shows and Gilmore Girls. I don't know, but she loves all this stuff. So I watched. I admit I find it amusing. Twins Paranormal or Paranormal Twins or whatever the hell it is. It's two twins with their hair dyed unnatural colors, and I think they had their teeth filed down as fangs, and they have the other guy Wyatt with a weird piercing on his nose, and I do enjoy the show. I absolutely enjoy the show. It is good for a laugh. They horribly misuse the term "I swear on everything" constantly throughout the show. The guy that seems to speak the most, Ryan, tends to scream out and repeat everything the spirit talker says to a point where we start laughing already when it says something because we know he's going to yell it out like it's the end of the world. I find the guy River to be hysterical. And the poor guy Wyatt just seems to get the brunt of everything. Usually, it's very predictable. Usually, at some point in this show, I would say right around the 2/3 mark, Ryan starts saying, "I'm ready to go. This was a bad idea. I'm ready to go. Should we go?" And one of the other two will chime in, "Yes, you're right. We should go." And predictably, Ryan will say, "Well, we're here and we're supposed to be doing it, so let's stay." And they triumphantly and courageously push on like the heroes that they are. It's very predictable. It's every episode. Basically, every little box when you go on YouTube that shows the picture of them in the episode says, "The night we almost died, the night the witch almost killed us, the night the monkey almost took our banana." I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's funny. The very first episode I saw was a while ago. I mean, probably 2 years ago, maybe. And a ball bounced down a flight of steps. And it scared Ryan so hard, I think he almost pissed himself. And it was freaking hysterical. So, I'm into the whole Bigfoot thing and obviously the Sasquatch thing. And yes, I do consider them two different things. I think Bigfoot is what you get on a t-shirt. I think Sasquatch is what the American Indians speak of, the First Nations people speak of. I don't consider it to be the same thing. Bigfoot is merchandise related. Sasquatch is the real deal. I do believe in Sasquatch. I don't believe in Bigfoot any more than I believe in the Loch Ness Monster. That's another story we can tell another day. I lived in Scotland for 2 years. We'll get around to that eventually. But like I said, we're going to go off a little bit here. I find it amazing how, and it's not just Twin Paranormal. It's a lot of these ghost hunters. Supposedly, Skinwalkers are all over the country now. They're in Nevada and California, and no, they're not. I mean, oh my God. The things people believe. And I got to tell you, if they really believe these spirit boxes or spirit radios or whatever the hell they're using, if they believe these things are real, I weep for the future. I really do. But I digress. Let's go back. We're going to call this one Skinwalkers, now conveniently located everywhere. Let's just go on. According to traditional Dene belief, and Dene is what the Navajo call themselves, Just in case you didn't know that, the Skinwalkers are connected to the Navajo culture and Navajo country, or county, country, whatever you want to call it, primarily in portions of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. According to Twin Paranormal and several other paranormal research teams, however, Skinwalkers have apparently purchased unlimited bus passes and scattered themselves across the United States. These investigators traveled to Northern California, Reno, Lake Mead, abandoned mines, random forests, isolated cabins, farms, caves, and anywhere else containing trees, darkness, and insufficient cell phone reception. Once there, they hear a branch snap and immediately begin discussing skinwalkers. Because clearly the most reasonable explanation for a noise in a Nevada forest is not a deer, coyote, raccoon, bird, rodent, or one of the cameramen stepping on something. No, it must be a practitioner of a harmful witchcraft from culturally specific Navajo tradition who traveled hundreds of miles to interfere with a YouTube production. Apparently, skinwalkers are deeply committed to content creation. Twins Paranormal has investigated places with wonderfully dramatic names such as Skinwalker Island, Skinwalker Forest, Skinwalker Valley, Skinwalker Cave, and I believe even an episode called Skinwalker Walmart. None of these names provide an actual connection to the traditional Dene belief, but certainly look fantastic written in capital letters across the thumbnail besides 3 terrified faces. That would be the thing you see on YouTube before you click on it. Calling a place Skinwalker Forest does not make it one. I could rename the Holiday Inn at the end of the street in Cleveland Skinwalker International Headquarters, but that does not mean a shape-shifting witch is managing the continental breakfast. The basic problem is geography. If a team sincerely wanted to study traditional Skinwalker belief, it would begin by learning about Navajo history, culture, territory, and spiritual traditions. That would require research, patience, cultural sensitivity, and conversations with knowledgeable Dene people who were willing to discuss the subject. Unfortunately, that approach lacks people screaming in night vision. Instead, many paranormal teams visit an abandoned building hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, whatever, from Navajo country, switch off every light, use their EMF equipment, and ask whether skinwalkers are present. When nothing responds, they ask again but louder, because supernatural beings apparently suffer from hearing loss. Eventually an owl hoots, a rock moves, or something growls in the distance. The investigators immediately run while shouting, "What was that?" Well, let's be real, it was probably wildlife. You went into a home at midnight carrying flashlights, cameras, motion sensors, and enough electronic equipment to open a small Best Buy store. The animal is likely asking this engine. That does not mean Twin Paranormal cannot make entertaining videos. Dear God, they make entertaining videos. They really can. They are fantastic at it. Darkness, abandoned buildings, strange noises, dramatic editing, and frightened investigators are a proven combination. But entertainment should not be confused with culturally informed research and cultural sensitivity. If an episode is filmed far outside Navajo country at a location with no documented Dene connection, the creature being hunted is probably not a traditional skinwalker. It is more likely vaguely defined as an internet monster wearing skinwalker name tag because possibly injured coyote investigation does not attract quite as many viewers. The term has effectively become paranormal seasoning. Whenever episode needs additional flavor, investigators sprinkle skinwalker on top. Or I was going to call it Spinwalker because it is a spin on reality, but let's keep it Skinwalker. Strange tracks, Skinwalker. Noise in the woods, Skinwalker. Camera malfunction, Skinwalker. Team member gets a headache, definitely a Skinwalker. Something stole the snacks from equipment van, Skinwalker, or possibly one of the twins, Ryan. The truly remarkable discovery is not evidence that skinwalkers exist everywhere. It is evidence that the word skinwalker can be attached to virtually any location as long as the episode is filmed at night and the thumbnail contains glowing eyes. And by the way, before I get sued for defamation, that was a joke about Ryan stealing the snacks. Everyone knows it would be Wyatt. If paranormal teams genuinely wish to investigate traditional skinwalker claims, they should start with culture from which believes where they originated, I should say, and proceed respectfully, assuming anyone from that culture will be willing to speak with them, if they would be willing to speak with them. They should not run like a bull through a china closet every time something goes bump screaming Skinwalker. That is defamation of Navajo culture. They need to get this under control. And Wyatt, just to protect myself, I was joking about you stealing the snacks as well. Nobody stole the snacks. The snacks are still there. Everybody clear? None of the Paranormal Twins team or Twins Paranormal team stole any snacks from anything. Now, like I said, that is Navajo cultural defamation, or whatever you would call it. I'm not even sure what the word would be. I mean, I don't think it's cultural appropriation because they're not claiming the Skinwalkers are theirs now, that they came from their culture. However, they clearly have not done their homework. Was it Ryan was saying, that might be a female Skinwalker. I challenge you to find a story of a female Skinwalker anywhere, Ryan, and if you do, I'd love to hear about it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm willing to bet you didn't do that much research on the topic, or you would not be researching Skinwalkers in Nevada. So, Twins Paranormal. They should admit that they are producing horror entertainment inspired by modern internet folklore. There is nothing wrong with spooky entertainment. Just stop pretending that every suspicious raccoon from Reno to Cleveland is participating in an ancient Navajo conspiracy against you. At this rate, the next episode will be titled, Trapped with the Skinwalker at the Cleveland Holiday Inn. The ice machine actually knew our names and said them. Naturally, that would receive 3 million views. So, as I like to do when we talk about these comical farces on TV, let's go over some real Skinwalker lore so you can understand the next time you watch one why it is just so ridiculous. The factual origins of Skinwalkers and why they probably aren't hiding behind the Holiday Inn in Cleveland. Skinwalkers have become extremely popular in horror movies, television programs, podcasts, social media videos, and internet stories narrated by people who apparently own 12 tactical flashlights but have never once spent 10 minutes researching real Navajo culture. Modern Skinwalkers are often described as bizarre animals with glowing eyes, backwards legs, unnatural movements, and the ability to imitate human voices. They supposedly lurk beside lonely highways, wander through suburban neighborhoods, stalk campers, peer into windows at night, and according to the internet, occasionally hang around the Holiday Inn at the end of the street in Cleveland. Because nothing says ancient Navajo spiritual evil quite like loitering behind an ice machine near Interstate 71. While these details make entertaining horror stories, many have very little to do with the original Skinwalker belief. Unfortunately, that has not stopped the internet from declaring that every underdefined, unclear picture of a coyote, injured deer, screeching fox, and strangely shaped shrub is a supernatural creature capable of stealing your face. The actual cultural origin. The Skinwalker comes mainly from traditional belief of the Dene people, more commonly known as the Navajo. The Navajo Nation covers portions of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. Notice that Cleveland, Ohio was not included in that sentence, nor was Reno, Nevada. This does not mean that Navajo people can, yes, the air conditioning just kicked on. This does not mean that Navajo people can live in Cleveland, or cannot live in Cleveland. It means a traditional Skinwalker belief developed within a specific culture and geographical setting, not behind every chain hotel, convenience store, suburban garage, and dumpster from Maine and California. And I'm telling you folks, Skinwalkers are extremely territorial, geographically specific creatures if they do exist. They do not attach themselves like some of these freaking weird-ass ghost shows say they do. None of that shit. They are very, if they exist, according to Navajo legend, they're very geographically specific. In their traditional belief, a Skinwalker is not simply a Native American version of a werewolf. Make note of that. It is not a newly discovered animal species. Make note of that. A government experiment or an alien tourist, or a hairless bear having a particularly rough evening. A Skinwalker is believed to be a human being who has deliberately chosen to practice harmful witchcraft. There you go. Okay, it's not a UFO, it's not a bear, it's not a possessed deer, it's not, anything else. It is believed to be a human being who has deliberately chosen to practice harmful witchcraft. I've also heard Ute Indian stories, and if I said that wrong, I apologize. Ute Indian stories saying how that the Skinwalkers were not necessarily choosing harmful witchcraft, but they've spoken with shaman about getting revenge, and the shaman turns them into Skinwalkers, who then controls the Skinwalkers. It's a side story. It's kind of twisted how they use the Skinwalkers for their own benefit. However, the story does exist in Ute Indian culture. The distinction matters. The original belief is not mainly about a mysterious creature wandering through the wilderness. It is about a person who has rejected the moral responsibilities of the community and chosen to use spiritual knowledge to harm others. That is a much deeper idea than, say, my Ring camera recorded something blurry at 3:14 in the morning. So obviously an ancient shape-shifting witch is stealing packages from my front porch. Yes, I am so sick to shit of everybody claiming everything in the woods is a Skinwalker now. What the Skinwalker name means. The Navajo term often connected with Skinwalker is Yi Naldashui. Good luck with that one. I've heard it said probably 10 times. I've asked for clarification. I got clarification, and I still hurt my brain trying to say it. Yi Naldashui or something like that. It is commonly translated as he meaning him, male, goes on all fours. There's another translation that says it, but I would say a good 90% of the people refer to it as he or him goes on all fours. That is not saying that Skinwalkers use, conflicting pronouns. I'm telling you, it's always a man. This saying that a Skinwalker is a woman is ridiculous. Not that a woman couldn't be a Skinwalker in an equal world. However, it's usually a man. I've never heard it referred to as a woman. No pronouns here. Nothing like that. The Skinwalker is not going to attack you and pause to say, by the way, I prefer if you tell stories about this, he, him pronouns. Not going to happen. It's a man. I guess I could have just said Skinwalkers are usually male. Yeah. The exact English translation varies between Navajo language, does not always translate perfectly into English. Languages tend to be complicated that way. Apparently, century-old spiritual concepts refuse to arrange themselves into a convenient 15-second TikTok video with dramatic music and red arrows pointing at a blurry object. According to traditional accounts, the Skinwalker may be believed capable of transforming into an animal, controlling an animal, or disguising itself by wearing an animal's skin. Coyotes, wolves, foxes, owls, and crows are commonly mentioned. So this is saying that this Skinwalker is not only capable of changing its appearance, it's capable of changing its mass. Something else to take note of. The mass of a man is definitely different than the mass of a crow. The bone structure, DNA, the whole 9 yards. So there's a lot going on here. However, the animal is not the most important part of the belief. The important part is that the Skinwalker began as a human being who chose to misuse spiritual knowledge. This is worth repeating because modern entertainment frequently misses it. The original Skinwalker is not merely an animal that looks unusual. If an elderly coyote has mange, arthritis, and a bad attitude, it is probably not an immortal Navajo witch. It may simply be a coyote whose health insurance has an unreasonable deductible. Balance, harmony, and responsibility. To understand why Skinwalkers are considered so serious in Navajo culture, it helps to understand the concept of Hozho. In simple terms, Hozho means living in balance. harmony, and the beauty and the peace of the world around you. Within this worldview, people are expected to respect their families, communities, nature, traditions, and spiritual responsibilities. The goal is not merely to survive as an individual, it is to live properly within a larger network of relationships. Traditional Navajo healers use their knowledge and ceremonies to help people. They may perform ceremonies intended to balance when someone is sick, troubled, frightened, or experiencing misfortune. A harmful witch is believed to do the opposite. Instead of using knowledge to heal, protect, or restore harmony, that person uses it for selfish and destructive purposes. Hence, the shaman that would use someone coming to them for help as their own, for lack of better terms, tool. If they would take this person and turn them into a Skinwalker and use it for their own personal gain, not for what the person originally asked for. In my head, that made sense. I hope it made sense to you. The Skinwalker, therefore, oh man, here comes a yawn. Hold on. I know, a good guy would block that out, not me. I don't care. The Skinwalker, therefore, represents someone who has turned against everything holding the community together. It is warning about what can happen when a person gains knowledge or power or loses all sense of reality. And with that, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee because I forgot to grab one before I came up. The original Skinwalker story is not merely about a frightening animal running through the desert. It is about a human being who has deliberately chosen evil. This is precisely what makes the belief disturbing. Animals have according to instinct, or behave according to instinct. People are capable of making choices, and as the comment section beneath any paranormal video demonstrates, those choices are not always impressive. No convenient starting date. There is no known date in which the first Skinwalker story was told. Navajo history and spiritual traditions were passed down orally for generations before outsiders began recording them. It is therefore impossible to point to one person, year, or event, or even declare this is exactly when Skinwalkers began. There is no official Skinwalker birthday. There is no ribbon cutting ceremony, no commemorative plaque, and no grand opening featuring free coffee and donuts for the first 50 terrified villagers. The belief developed within a much broader system of Navajo spirituality, morality, healing, harmful witchcraft, and the community responsibility. Its history is complicated because living cultures are complicated. They rarely fit neatly into the type of online article titled 10 Shocking Skinwalker Facts the Government Doesn't Want You to Know. Number 7 will destroy your pants. A serious and private subject. The subject remains very serious and private for many Dene people. Some do not discuss Skinwalkers at all. They will not speak of them if asked, especially with outsiders. Some believe talking about them can attract unwanted attention or give the subject additional power. Others feel that sacred or dangerous cultural knowledge should be converted into entertainment for people who need something spooky to discuss between advertisements for local food buckets. Okay, and this is serious. A lot of Navajo refuse to speak about Skinwalkers, especially to outsiders. And they honestly believe that talking about them will give the subject additional power. I can liken this to the blue-haired and the purple-haired freaks protesting ICE, screaming until the camera points at them. Once the camera points at them, they go nuts and do stupid shit and carry on like fools. Skinwalkers. They're Skinwalkers. I'm telling you, they're blue-haired, purple-haired Skinwalkers. However, in all seriousness, the Navajo concerns and concepts deserve respect. Because the subject is often kept private, much of what the public thinks they know about Skinwalkers comes from secondhand accounts, make-believe, and content creation generators. Outsiders have recorded portions of the tradition, but that does not mean they possess the entire story. And yes, it's time for more coffee. Oh my God, that's good coffee. Anyone claiming to know every secret of Skinwalker should therefore be treated with caution. He may have completed slightly more research than a man who watched 3 YouTube videos at 2 in the morning while eating beef jerky in his underwear, but that does not make him a Navajo spiritual expert. Owning night vision equipment does not help either. The Long Walk of the Navajo. Some modern stories claim that Skinwalker believed during the Long Walk of the Navajo in the 1860s. During this terrible period, the United States government forcibly removed thousands of Dene people from their homeland. They were made to travel hundreds of miles to Bosco Redondo in eastern New Mexico. Many suffered from hunger, disease, exposure, violence, and eventually death. This forced Navajo removal was a real and devastating historical event. It caused enormous suffering and disrupted Navajo families and communities. The fear, grief, and instability of that period have strengthened accusations of witchcraft or made existing fears more intense. However, there is not enough evidence to claim that skinwalkers were invented during that long walk. The broader Navajo belief in harmful witchcraft appears to be considerably older, thousands of years older. History is sometimes frustrating like that. It does not always provide a clean answer suitable for a podcast thumbnail featuring glowing eyes, a red circle, 6 question marks, and a host making facial expression of a man who has just discovered electricity. The Navajo Witch Purge. Another important event occurred in 1878 during what is called the Navajo Witch Purge. A number of people accused of witchcraft were reportedly killed. This happened during an extremely difficult period after the Navajo people returned from Bosco Redondo. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Communities were attempting to rebuild after years of displacement, hunger, government control, violence, and cultural disruption. The events of 1878 demonstrate that accusations of witchcraft were taken very seriously within the Navajo Nation. They do not prove that the Skinwalker belief originated at that time. Instead, they show older beliefs that can become especially powerful during periods of fear, hardship, suspicion, or social disorder. Human beings tend to search for explanations when terrible things happen. Sometimes the explanation is accurate, sometimes it's based on fear, sometimes it is Dave from accounting who heard something from his cousin's barber and now considers the investigation complete. Early research. Researchers began recording more detailed studies of Navajo witchcraft during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. One of the best known works was Clyde, I'm not going to try to say his last name, Cluckhorn's 1994 book, Navajo Witchcraft. Let's just say Clyde, I'm not even going to say his name again, documented several different forms of harmful witchcraft within the Navajo belief. The Skinwalker was only one part of his larger spiritual and cultural system. His research remains historically important, but it must be read carefully. Clyde was an outsider studying another culture during an earlier era of anthropology. He could record what people told him, but that did not necessarily mean he fully understood every spiritual, social, and cultural meaning behind it. So, the book is based on interpretation. Don't go running out and buy it and consider it a guide to Skinwalkers, because this is entirely, and don't forget, there's a lot lost in translation. So, it's probably a very interesting book, but I wouldn't count it as fact. This is a common human problem. Someone visits a place, asks several questions, writes down a few answers, and returns home believing they have completely understood a culture that has existed for thousands of years. It is roughly the scholarly equivalent of spending a weekend in Philadelphia and publishing a 12-volume history in Pennsylvania. What the stories were meant to do. Later researchers examined how Skinwalker stories were told within the Navajo families and communities. These stories were not necessarily told only to frighten people. They could teach children about danger, courage, proper behavior, family loyalty, and the importance of remaining connected to the community. We're getting an echo here. Hold on. All right, let's see if we still have the echo. It happens every time the AC kicks on. Where were we at? They could teach children about danger, courage, proper behavior, family loyalty, and the importance of remaining connected to the family and the community. They could also provide ways for people to discuss unexplained sickness, bad luck, suspicious behavior, jealousy, conflict, and fear. Don't forget, 500 years ago, people thought the world was flat and mice came from rice. People tend to fill in blank spaces in science and history with their imagination, not fact. Moving on. Traditional stories often serve several purposes at once. They entertain, warn, teach, preserve values, and help people make sense of difficult experiences, especially the unknown if it's frightening unknown. That is considerably more meaningful than the modern version in which two men hear from a fox scream in the woods and immediately conclude that a 7-foot interdimensional skinwalker has followed them home because it is attracted to their podcast equipment. How the internet changed everything. Modern entertainment has transformed a skinwalker into something far more general. On the internet, virtually every strange-looking animal can now be called a skinwalker. A deer standing on its hind legs, a skinwalker. A coyote making unusual sounds, a skinwalker. A pale figure caught on a blurry security camera, most definitely a skinwalker. A raccoon knocking over a trash can behind the Holiday Inn in Cleveland. Ancient Navajo witchcraft has apparently expanded into hotel waste management. Poor lighting, distance, fear, and a camera manufactured for approximately $9 are now all the evidence some people require. If the image contains fewer than 12 recognizable pixels, the paranormal explanation becomes nearly certain. People also forget that animals can look extremely strange when they are sick, injured, frightened, underfed, or filmed from an odd angle. Deer can stand upright. They do, they can, and they will. Foxes can make noises that sound terrifyingly human. Many police calls are dispatched for screaming women. A call for screaming women, and it turns out it's a fox. Coyotes can suffer from mange. Owls can produce sounds that would sound like, it would make a fully armed Marine briefly reconsider his position on supernatural beings. The sound some owls make is horrifying, especially in double canopy woodland setting where the sound is trapped under the trees. Nature is already weird. It does not need shape-shifting witch to add to every wildlife encounter. Yet thousands of people remain convinced that skinwalkers have abandoned their traditional territory and spread across the entire United States. Evidently now they can occupy forests in Pennsylvania, subdivisions in Florida, parking garages in Chicago, rest stops in New Jersey, and room 214 of that Holiday Inn Express in Cleveland, Ohio. Only one can assume the continental breakfast was included. Let's face it, if the damn thing, if the skinwalker is going to go that far, he's going to go somewhere where breakfast is included. I got so much going on here on this thing, and I'm just getting tired. I'm going to cut to the chase here, cut to the quick here at the end. I'm going to skip about 5 pages. Are skinwalkers everywhere? No. No reliable evidence demonstrates that human beings can physically transform into coyotes, wolves, owls, or other animals. There is also no reliable evidence of a nationwide skinwalker network operating from abandoned barns, highways, underpasses, hotel laundry rooms, and suburban drainage ditches. If you hear scratching outside a motel room in any large major city in the world, several explanations should be considered before ancient Navajo witchcraft. It could be a raccoon investigating in the trash. It could be a guest that lost his hotel key. It could be an ice machine preparing to die. It could be someone ordered food delivery and gave the driver the wrong room number. It's a hotel. Noises are made. It's a house. Noises go on outside. It's the woods. There are noises in the woods that cannot be explained. It does not need to be labeled a skinwalker. And there's another angle to this that people keep forgetting, that all these clickbait lunatics on the internet, YouTube, fail to mention. They always seem scared out of their minds that this monstrous, devilish being is out there capable of murdering them, inhabiting their souls, and taking over and whatever, stealing their library card or whatever they got going on. They're not equipped to defend themselves with just a flashlight and a camera and a Walmart tent, yet they're out there. Let's face it, they're not that brave. They don't go to the gym. They don't fight. They're pasty white lunatics out there running around the woods dressed like idiots. They do not expect to honor a Skinwalker. They do not believe they're going to encounter a Skinwalker. They're not even really looking for a Skinwalker. They're just out there in the woods making a video, in my personal opinion, to make me laugh or make you scared. So let's not keep giving credit to these idiots on the internet that think, well, they've got some of you fooled. I know they do. I watch them because they're funny. I don't think their other 2 million viewers think they're funny. I think they believe the shit they talk about. Personally, looking at the Skinwalker thing, I personally believe it was more like a Krampus thing where people, children, maybe irresponsible adults, are told stories to keep them in line. I think it would be very easy for someone to throw on an animal pelt and a mask and run around making weird noises, and a bunch of adults to say, oh, that's a Skinwalker. If you don't eat all your vegetables, he's going to come and swallow your soul. I don't know that any of our First Nations people were ever truly that evil. They called themselves the human beings for a reason. They were what we should all strive to be. The First Nations people were incredible in their time before we came and ruined their lives. So let's get off the every time something goes bump in the night or a stick gets broken or something like that. I mean, for Pete's sake, now they're saying Bigfoot's in Great Britain. This has gotten so far out of control. I encourage you to watch that Twin Paranormal because it is extremely entertaining, and we have subscribed to it, and I love watching it. But I watch and I laugh so hard I got chocolate milk coming out of my nose. I don't take any of it seriously. I don't think they do, and I think in reality, you're not supposed to take it seriously. They don't have the moral compass or moral turpitude to be that brave to do the kind of things that they do for real. And I think that's known. I think it's a given. So before we go stomping all over First Nations people, traditions and beliefs, and pointing at everything in the dark and saying it's a Skinwalker, let's use a little common sense. Because honestly, if you're afraid to go out in the woods because of Skinwalkers, y'all watch your six. There might be a Skinwalker coming up behind you. Freaking peace out.